All right, let's just take a moment to soften the gaze or close the eyes together. And let's offer from our hearts a sense of gratitude for this day, gratitude for this opportunity to walk the good green earth in a body. Let's feel into the body as our breath comes into our awareness and allows us to drop into the bones and the blood of the body. Feel the feet and the hands. Feel the belly breathing, softening. Calm the heart feeling. And let's calm the mind, imagining the thoughts. And just allow the imagination to see and the feelings to feel a walking in the forest, walking on your own path, inviting the awareness to centralize and also harmonize with the environment. Maybe there's trees, sound of water, some birds and animals on the path, feeling the feet on the earth. We could just walk and breathe together for a moment, allowing nature to relax us, allowing our natural state to move us forward till we come to a clearing in the forest. Looking out over the clearing, we see the fire burning, so we can just find our way to a place by the fire where we can warm our hands and find our place in the circle. Feeling the fire and recognizing the warmth and the energy and the transmutative qualities of the fire. And recognizing the stones around the fire, giving thanks, offering gratitude for the stones and the earth, the trees in a circle around us, holding us in a space of rootedness, also with our branches lifting towards the sky, and feeling gratitude for the trees and the plants, and inviting the ancestors, the energy of the animal, perhaps what we might call a spiritual guide, our own higher selves, and giving thanks for all of them, for those benevolent ones. We have this beautiful image that we're celebrating now on the new moon, the fire horse, the fire within the fire. So let's just feel the energy of sitting by the fire and allow the sparks from the fire, one of the sparks, just to land in the center of the chest and just to expand into a sort of spherical sun, the coherent fire of the heart, energy of the heart, that not only binds us in this circle, but all those who may be listening and all creation bound by this energy of the heart. Not in a constrictive way, but in a freeing, so that we could feel our unique place in this circle of life and offer up our stories just as a joyous, soothing, healing balm for all that is. And so it is. So if you'd like to wiggle or move, please feel free. I am complete.
Oh, thank you, David. Your achievements are just so magical and so relaxing and so connecting. I feel always so calm. So thank you for that. And maybe I'll start us because my story is quite short, sort of, and sweet. And since we are in this interesting time of we're starting the Chinese year with the fire horse, and there is eclipse as well today. So it's just like pretty interesting, very exciting for me personally. I feel excited and exciting energy. But at the same time, there's a lot of shedding that's been happening the last few days, quite strongly, actually. I don't know about you, how you all feel, but for me, it was pretty intense. Like patterns that wanted to come, that wanted to just leave, they definitely come up to the surface. So I'm grateful for that. And at the same time, I'm grateful to myself for navigating the human experience. So, and this story keep coming to me, like for at least last whole of the last week. And the story I think I mentioned when we had the horse subject before, but it just keep coming in a very new light to me. And I feel that this is the energy that is actually coming now. That it's just there are some endings and there are some beginnings. Our theme today is the horse and the new beginnings. And I feel like, for me, the new beginning feel like reaching out to all of the aspects of me, but actually putting it into a new form to some degree. So maybe I'll just share the story and it will make a little bit more sense. But I was about probably between 7 and 9, and I was horse riding, and I loved it. I always loved horses. I till now just I feel so connected to the horses, and I love their wisdom, their kindness, their beautiful, great, huge heart, and amazing grounding energy that even thinking of them makes me feel so like calmer and just filled with some magic and love. And I remember my amazing teacher. She was this lady. She owned the stables, and she had all the horses that she dearly loved, and they all had very beautiful names, and they were like just really taken care of very beautifully by her. They were like members of family for her. So I was so blessed to be when my mom and dad took me to learn how to ride horses there after me nagging them for a long time. And, they finally agreed, and I went and I started learning to ride, and I just instantly just fell in love, like in the process of being like one with the horse, like learning first how to just connect to the rhythm of the horse, to the point that I was actually quite quickly just progressed quite nicely. And the lady, and back then it was 90s, so we didn't have any like helmets and protective gear. I was just in my like sweatsuits and hoodie, and that was it. And it was just me on the horse, and the lady saw that I kind of managed to do the gallop, which is almost the fastest, I would say, speed, or the way the horse can go. But then after gallop, I don't know in English if there's word for this, but in Polish it's called trwał, which is the next stage of gallop, which is even faster gallop, which is the way when the horse sort of goes so fast but so steady that you just like float on the horse. So the speed is incredible, and you feel like you basically won, and you're going like this like incredible force together into the forest. And that experience is so profound for me. And only now I realize, because I remember sharing a little bit of it in another episode. But I just realized with the new beginnings and sort of new cycle, I realized what a gift that was for me, um, from this amazing woman to allow me to like trust in me and to see that I can do it. So that's one amazing gift. Most of all, the gift of this horse to like really tune in with me, and we became one. And I was a very tiny, very thin, a little girl who barely could reach to the, with the saddle to the things for the feet. But we were going like a thunder. And that was the gift for me of that fearlessness, like absolute. I felt ecstatic. I just felt so free and connected and just one of the most beautiful sensations of my life on this planet. Definitely in the top five. But it was just, and now I was tuning into it and I just realized that it was such a profound gift to me because I realized that I actually come back to this memory so many times, like when I want to remember my older self, that as that youngster I was so fearless and I just felt like I can do anything at that point. And this sensation, it's in my cells, and I sometimes just bring it up just to remind myself, when my adult mind is just playing a little tricks and it gets stuck a little bit in a mental construct, and that just helps me to really strip that sort of like inner critic or some sort of mind little whispers or even shouts. That memory and that vision is just like plaster of honey for my heart. So I wanted to start us with that one, like with the fire horse, because horses are just the most beautiful beings. And yeah, just let's see where we can go next.
I can jump on here. Thank you, Cassia. What a wonderful story. It reminds me of some of the stories I shared previously with when we were discussing horse on a previous episode, and just that feeling of freedom and wildness and so boundless. It's so beautiful. And so today I was sort of taking a little different approach. I sort of looked at the year of the fire horse and thought I would talk a little bit about a horse and a little bit about fire. So that's the kind of journey I've created for today. And I've pulled some things out of the dream arc for it. So for the horse, I actually attended it. It was interesting. I was looking at the dream arc, and the dream arc has, for each of the animals, has guidance and mythological stuff, and then meaning, and then a contemplation. And so I actually ended up pulling something out of the meaning from each of the pieces I'm going to present today. So that was interesting. So, if you have the horse as a symbol, then your life is bound up with huge and shifting evolutionary currents. This symbol brings revolution to the world and especially to human society. To work with this symbol is to ride energies that are transforming the whole fabric of our social ways and traditions. You will undoubtedly be way ahead of your time, but you will also hit a very powerful contemporary note which people will be forced to listen to. And that little passage just reminds me of several of the pictures I've seen of the fire horse, with the horse running along and the fire streaming off its back. So I found that beautiful. And I had a little horse story about some horses that are very resilient and persistent. And it starts in a place off Nova Scotia called Sable Island. It's a narrow crescent-shaped island about 300 kilometers southeast of Nova Scotia in the North Atlantic Ocean. It's a land of sand dunes and grass. It's, quite small, 42 kilometers long and about 1.2 kilometers wide. And there we have the Sable Island horses, and they're small, untamed, free-roaming wild horses. They did do a population count in 2018, and there's about 500 of them. There were about 300 in the 1970s. And these horses were first deliberately put on the island in the 1700s, and the herd has managed to grow, and sometimes they were taken away and some were left and things like that. So they have quite a history, but now it's an unmanaged and legally protected from any interference from humans. And they've now made the the Sable Island horses, the official horse for Nova Scotia. And they are out there, and I think about them quite a lot, of how they're galloping on this wild and windy place, this cold piece of land in the Atlantic Ocean, but they're so persistent and they're still there. And they carry on, and their beauty, there's some books written on them and there's some films, and their beauty is just magnificent. So that was a little bit about horse. And then how I decided to approach fire was because my evolution key is gene key 30, which is fire over fire, and the shadow is desire, the city is rapture, and the gift in the way is of lightness. So I decided to look at the dream arc. And so in the dream arc, we have the fear key, which is the moth, a changer, and it's fear of discomfort. And then Richard writes, the other aspect of the moth is this mythical association with the light or flame. Desire can burn us and put us through all manner of deep transformations. If this is your symbol, then you will have to face these kinds of fires, whether internally or externally, and you will have to learn to embrace them and even love them. Ultimately, the moth signifies that we will indeed eventually dissolve into the divine flame and experience oneness with life. And then we move into the life key, and that is the mercat, a laugher, and it's blessed lightness. And Richard writes, the mercat is a master of knowing when to engage and when to retreat. At an emotional level, this signifies the gift of knowing how to always maintain balance and perspective no matter how hot the situation gets. The mercat uses its network of underground tunnels to move freely out into the open as and when it chooses. This translates in humans as the ability to move freely through all realms, and in particularly to maintain lightness of spirit as far as regards the fulfillment of one's desires and dreams. And then the vision key is the bird of paradise, a dreamer, and its vision is of rapture and purification. And these birds are located in Papua New Guinea, and so I had to do a little research on them to see some pictures of them, and they have these beautiful long feathers, kind of like the fire flames coming off the horse's back, are these beautiful, beautiful feathers. So, Richard says, the bird of paradise is closely connected symbolically to the phoenix. Because of its amazing plumage and elaborate mating rituals, it represents immersion in the highest frequencies of divine fire. This symbol represents the transcendence of human desire and sensual appetite, but not through denial, rather through immersion in the true tantric path of love. Rapture means to allow oneself to be utterly burned in the devotional flames of the divine. The bird of paradise reminds us both of where we have come from and where we are moving as a species. It is a symbol to work with gently at first, so that you grow accustomed to its incredible transformational power. So all of these animals just bring in the whole gene key 30 for me, and that fire over fire. And I think in the gene key book, it really is that devotional energy and the bhakti of the devotion to life and to love, and to really hold that all in our bodies. And then when we raise that up and the devotional energy, then the Shakti comes pouring down and is the blade of fire that really changes us and allows us to merge. It's a bit scary thing. So I actually really agree when he says here, work gently with this symbol at first, because it has such transformational power. But that sort of, all of that reminded me totally of this fire horse and the fire that consumes us, and how this picture of the fire horse moving ahead but engulfed in flames. And that's kind of what we all are. We're engulfed in the flame of love, and that is how I'm going to go into the year of the horse.
Thank you. Off to a good gallop here, aren't we? I thank you. I'm reflecting on all of that, and it's interesting too that we begin this fire horse year when, if we're talking gene keys, it's in this 30th gene key and it's in line 5, and in the sage, the word for it is annihilation. And I thought, what a beautiful seed for this whole year of this fire horse. And perhaps I might read the sutra later, but as I'm reflecting on this, it's like, yeah, we're in this birth of this year of the fire horse. And in 2018, I was on a property, living on a property. I was renting at the time, and there was 4 horses. And I kept saying, okay, there's the horses. Where's the horsemen? Where's this? Where's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? And but one of them had been born when we were on the land. And I remember being there for its birth. And it was it was a it was a summer morning, and I woke up and I just looked out towards the barn where they were, and I saw movement. And the owners of the property beckoned us to come over and look. And sure enough, there's this little baby standing up for its first time, like taking those first steps up. And it was just such the cutest thing. And I, in time, formed quite a friendship with this. His name was Jackson. And Jackson was this gypsy vanner. And so I'm watching him as he's like growing. And I'm thinking that of the birth of the fire horse as well, because this horse, I'm watching him growing, and he did grow up quickly. And he had lots of energy. He was this bundle of energy. And in fact, as he grew, and because I was tending to him, and part of what I would do on the land actually is just to connect with the horses, and I would actually, feed him, and I would clear out his barn and things like that, just so I could have that kind of connection with him. And it was a really beautiful experience. And as he became more rambunctious, and as he kind of lived up to the gene key that he was born in was the 35th gene key, city of boundlessness. And so there was no containing this horse. And there were times when we'd put up a fence, just a wooden fence around, and twice he smashed that fence and ran through it. And that makes me think of this energy of this fire horse. And then at the same time, I'm also remembering that a lot of time what those horses did, even Jack, was just simply standing there and grazing. They spent a lot of their time grazing. And so I feel this as we step into this year of the fire horse, because there is a lot of fire, and we could burn out, right? We could burn out. And I know Richard has spoken to this elsewhere. But for myself, already noticing it in this field that we're part of this Gene Keys community, and there's such an energy of enthusiasm, and there's all this talk of the gallop of the horse, and I love the gallop of the horse, and I also love the stillness. And there's an element of watching these horses, or actually any creature that grazes, that helps me to embrace kind of the more mundane as well, right? It's almost like there's an embrace of the dullness of life. It's like they spend so much time grazing, but they enjoy it by the sounds of it, by the looks of it. They're not, needing to escape that or run away from that. And so that too was something that I would observe and remember in my own life as well. It was like, yeah, am I giving, it's the pauses, right? That even in the speed of the gallop, I can be slow on the inside, right? And it's that remembering that in all that I'm doing, because I would say this year there's a lot more activity going on, and there's more coming up that I'm aware of in the near future, and it can feel like a gallop. But just to recognize that how I'm approaching that with my inner stillness, a stillness in the gallop feels like kind of part of my approach to this year, and to remember those pauses, and to remember to graze, and just enjoy life. And the other image that's coming to my mind as well, I'm not sure where this is going, I'm just going to trust it, but there was one day when the 4 horses were stood side by side, and they were all staring at something. And there was nothing there. You couldn't see anything there visibly, but it was like they sensed something. And it later turned out that there had been a cougar in the area. And so it was like they'd come together as this group and stared this cougar down or something like that because they were just stood motionless and just fully present. And as well as these horses, I've also had the experience of being with healing horses, which I think all horses are healing, but those that are specifically working with a human medium to do that, a practitioner to do that. And it had led to some of my most powerful breakthroughs in my personal life. There was a whole lineage piece that came in response to being in the presence of this horse and how it was responding to me. And it was almost like this mirror of me. This horse, his name was Hero, and he was like kind of wildly galloping around, and he was really on edge when I was in the space. This is about 8, 10 years ago now. And what it turned out was like it was related to a lineage piece. This was the amazing part that came out of it. It was a lineage piece from my dad's side of the family of the responsibility that the eldest male took in the family. And I happened to be the eldest male. My dad happened to be. His dad happened to be. It was just a piece in there. And it moved through. And with that awareness, suddenly the horse was my best buddy, came to complete stillness within inside of himself and trotted towards me. It was like, okay, we got this. And so, in that horse, that deep sensitivity, as we're galloping through the year, as things are burning through us, I'm just aware of that deep sensitivity to what's going on in our environment, what's going on inside of our community. The 49th gene key, which is the one the horse is associated with, happens to be both my radiance and my SQ sphere. So I think I've found, I find a real companion in the horse in this way. And I can definitely look at how I've never considered it might be my kin, but maybe, who knows? Because, Benny was the first horse I met at the age of 7 or 8, like you, Kasia, and would ride him. We didn't gallop on him though, but would ride him, and then of course these other horses that I've met along the way. And so I feel really grateful for horse in that way. And I was born in the year of the year of the Earth horse, actually, the year of the Earth horse. And so now that we're in this year of the fire horse, fire, earth, water, all the elements, all the elemental horses, I'm really, I can feel a sense of anticipation for what's to come, and at the same time, the importance of that grounding. It's like I'm seeing a horse right now, just kind of like digging its hoof into the ground. It's really grounding that powerful energy that the horse has. And so, with the fire and with the horse, and with launching it into it in this 30 line 5, and I'll just read. Here's the sutra. And the sutra is called All Fuels the Fire. All Fuels the Fire. And here it is. Turn up the heat. Burn with intensity, and your pain will crack open the next concealed layer of the molten magma of love. And these sutras, any of this kind of poetic sutra, I just love to bathe in the frequency of it rather than trying to dismantle it with my mind. But I can just feel such a resonance in that. And what a beautiful start to this year of the horse. And so as I watched Jackson grow from that young horse, and I got to see the shift in him, I'm going to be paying attention now in the birth of this year and this fire horse, and just to watch how we as a collective respond, and how sensitive we are to the herd and each other, and the beauty of what can come together, and the challenges that we might overcome together. So I think that's it from me, but thank you for the horse and the fire invitation. I resonate.
Yeah,
Oh, well, Matthew, when you get on the horse of share, it was like I was on a ride with you. It was great. Yeah, really all down and all around that adventure inside and out. Um, hmm. Yeah, I want to start by saying that being on our toes is the fire, being on our heels and back, like sitting back in the saddle, taking the ride, is the water. And there's somewhere in between these two that we're gonna be really enjoying a wonderful and wild ride in a place of sort of, I don't know, joyous buoyancy, like the lightness. I think about when I learned to ride a horse, which, how most of your weight is actually on your feet. It's not on your butt. Like, because if you do, then you'll be like wham, because it often, like, you can hit it. So it's like this kind of, like, you're together with the animal while you're totally what's the word, sovereign and independent in yourself. So this whole, like, energetic, potent, mutational, water, fire, whatever, devotional and rapturous experience that we are being privy to as both human beings and much more than humanity, is something that could be truly fun. Could be truly fun. And that said, there are times when there's oppression, there is depression, there is abuse, there is situations where horses, like literal horses, I see them by themselves in a very small space and not being cared for in the way that they really are designed. They are, we humans and also horses, we're designed to be together. We're designed to have companionship and be in situations where we feel one another's energies and bodies and have that kind of safety in numbers and support in the herd. And so I feel compassion for horses as these creatures that are wild at heart and yet also domesticated and sometimes even, taken advantage of. And so there's a whole range of things that could happen also in relation to us as humanity during this time, where there's an opportunity for a lot of taking advantage of our power as humanity. And there's also an opportunity for our own rising up and buoyancy and perhaps rebellion or revolution as joy, as truly like being and doing and the things that are most truly in alignment with our joy. So, of course, yeah, there's been a lot of shedding. I wanted to share a little attributed to Lao Tzu quote. Who knows if what Lao Tzu did, or even if Lao Tzu exists. I don't, Lao Tzu is a resonant being. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. When I let go of what I am, and how that is for me is like the standing horse. It's like the horse has a lot of power. Like they could be out there running, whatever, doing whatever they need to. They could pull a strong, potent, thing. And yet by letting go of the burden of like being out there, like all we can be kind of thing, we can allow the natural buoyancy of what is, like what truly is, to rise up and to feel really good and balanced in our system, my system, not take on burdens that are not ours, meant to be ours. So those are some things that were coming through me. Also, some of the things that you mentioned about sensitivity. And I look at the eyes of the horse, and they are some of the most tender eyes I've ever seen. I mean, even more tender than a dog sometimes. Like, I mean, they're just so tender. I like they literally, to me, when I get close to a horse, it looks like they're always tearing up, like just gently crying. And I can't help but feel like a softening in my heart. And yet knowing, like, you know, they're so strong, like they could hurt you. But what if the powers that be had that type of tenderness and way of utilizing the power with like such tender hearts, such tender eyes, such sensitivity, such patience, such willingness to companion whatever is going on, even if it's painful. Anyway, that's some of the things that came. The last thing I want to say is that, elks are also herd animals, and I love elks. They're around here. We have lots of horses and elks here in Colorado around where I live.
Hmm.
I have two in particular that I'm going to go feed later today because I want to give like a horse something today. But this morning, right here, like within touching distance, was an elk's body in my right here, and that's never happened before. And that was the very first thing I saw on the first day of the year of the horse was an elk, like right here in my window, and it was dark, and so I immediately I like went like that, like But then I was like, whoa. So a difference between that kind of initial like jarring that our nervous system might have around the potency of this time and all the changes and everything to like just this wonder at wow, it's rainbows like exploding, like amazing celestial fire of creation, like wow, like just enjoying it. Okay.
Well, you guys are very inspiring. I didn't think I'd have anything to say. And now I'm going to have to rein myself in. um, and yeah, come to the quintessence as much as I can. I was, I have been feeling uh, like a dissipation. Sometimes I'll feel that before any new moon, but in particular, it kind of enforced itself in my body in the form of sniffles and sneezes and, having to just not receive it more input or respond. So there's been this just in the last couple of days, but there's also um, an awareness of the infusion of this sort of, let's just give it the abstract term, new energy, because uh, other attempts to describe it might be um, difficult. But the energy of the fire horse, as I have been uh, absorbing it today, because I've heard it so much over the last several months that it's become sort of like just an echo. But the horse itself, the animal, is associated with the element of fire, as I understand from the Taoist perspective. So it's sort of a double fire. And the year itself can be associated with fire and floods. So there's sort of an ominous warning of potential weather changes and potential in the uh, economy, et cetera, so on and so forth. But the interesting thing that I learned today is that the next year will be the fire goat. And this is known apparently in the Chinese astrology as crimson horse, red goat calamity. And so there's this ominous sense of, what's going to happen. And at the same time, there's a reminder of for me, it's the potential to harmonize fire and water. And this was described as fire sinks, water rises, fire sinks to bring us to immortality. So naturally, when fire burns, of course, it's rising and water is sinking. And there's a sense of harmonizing those as they're, as opposites. And so to be a little more practical, there's an energy into the horse in general that, since I've contemplated it, of this creature that's actually helped humans move civilization forward, right? That before we had the horses to ride, we couldn't go places as quickly, and even now we have these vehicles that we attribute horsepower to, right? That speed us along the road. And so there's this energy of speed that I was hearing right away when Cassie was speaking, the speed of this rider on the horse. And there's also, for me, there's a caution in my body to slow down, not burn out, and to, feel that burning rapture, the joy, the energy that can move me forward, and to maybe like bring it down and in, bring it into practical form. So that's a little bit of what I'm feeling. And I came upon some words from my animal balance, just a little prayer that I'll perhaps end with, and something I wrote this morning that feels like it's on this theme. But I also wanted to share that the hexagram of the year, and incidentally, last year had the hexagram, according to the Taoists, guiding it, of the 49, the revolution. But for the year of the horse, it's the 13, which is the fellowship of man, as we speak of it. And it's I love the energy of the listening, of really being able to drop in and listen, of the 13. And it's interestingly, this Taoist master I was just listening to shared sort of the reminder in the 13 that we, of course, we want to mix with fellow beings of like mind. And that's a beautiful thing that we do. Oftentimes here we're doing it, we do it in the Jinkies. But also not to be exclusive, right? Because there's this oppositional voice out there that just wants to be listened to, They're also part of the fellowship in some form. And so anyway, that's what I was, a little bit of what I was feeling about the bringing in the 13. But interestingly, also in terms of this balancing, this is a passage from July 2011, where I chose the horse as the sky symbol, the father, the man, the yang, and the snake was there for the mother. And so there's a couple of kind of, I call them little animal prayers that I'll just read here. And it begins like this: Heavenly Father carries me on wings of light. Horse is here for the sky father. Pegasus and the solar chariot pulls the vehicle of pure potential. Horse, give me the power of will to carry the light of radiant awareness of thee. Grant me willingness to ride the winds of change and find myself transformed. And snake, honoring the snake of the of this change point. Snake is here for the Earth Mother. Blessed Mother, let me feel deeply for others and be infused with the light of who I really am. As I am aware of their faults, mistakes, and imperfections, show me the truth of their pure potential. As I forgive my own faults, let me forgive all unconditionally. Help me to raise my focus and transmute any poisonous thoughts into wisdom and understanding. And as I said yesterday, all I could do was just lay down at one point, and I found myself drawn to uh, the third sacred seal. Maybe it's because in our sage retreat I'm contemplating the third lines, and it led me to this sense: when love finds its way home, it is the end of suffering. Each one walks a unique path back to spirit. There's no substitute for silence, patience, and perseverance. Breathe. I'll just end with a breath.